What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the MLO Project, and I'm excited today. I'm excited every day. You know, I left it open for you to make your little hoo 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 sound, and you did nothing with it. So great. So already like 20 seconds in, and Michael's already flubbed it. So didn't even take 30 seconds this time. But guys, like, I'm excited today. I'm always excited, especially when it's Fridays. That means we're hanging out, recording an episode of the MLO Project. But today we got an amazing guest. But before I introduce him, I am begrudgingly going to introduce my co-host, which is Eminem, Mr. McAllister. Michael, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man? How are you today, Frazier?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really, really good. If you can't tell, I'm happy. I did fall down the stairs on Monday. I did post about that. People were like, "Hey, did you see?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I fucking I surfed down on my butt. I surfed down, like I was like this, like when you're in like a tube, right? Like on the lake. That's how I was. We got carpet on our stairs, and it's super slick, and I didn't turn the lights on. Anyway, it was a bunch of reasons. Either way, I like
a bunch of reasons
why. It was a whole allergy season was hitting us. But I surfed down, and so like my butt, like what is it, the Cosinks? However you pronounce it, however you say it, like I hurt that bad boy good. So it's been a fun week of sitting for me, and I thought all of you should know that's been my cross to bear this week. But now let's get into today's guest, and that is DC Darren Copeland, who is the owner, founder, dictator, El Presidente. No, he's definitely not a dictator, but that is the fearless leader of Summit Lending in the great state of Missouri. DC, what's up, buddy?
What's up, guys? You know what? I love hanging out with you guys because you never know what's going to come out.
Never.
With Michael and Frazier. I mean, we're all over the spectrum, and dude, this is going to be fun. And man, I'm sorry to hear about your butt, man. At this age, you got to be careful. You just can't be surfing down the steps, man. You might do something serious.
So as I was like prone, I was prone on the bottom of the steps on the hardwood floor. My wife's like, babe, because she heard, like, everyone heard the ruckus. The kids came out, like, it was super early because it was like 4:40 in the morning, right, when I did it. And so I'm just like prone on the bottom of the stairs, and I'm same thing with your thoughts. I'm like, all right, I'm pushing 50. I'm getting close. Like, did I break a hip? Did I break something? Thankfully, like, other than, the butt thing, like, stubbed my toe on the banister. But other than that, I came out okay. And so that I was a fear. I was like, great. Is this going to be one of those things? Oh, hey, Frazier, how'd you break your leg? Oh, I just, I flew down the stairs.
So in a nutshell, the biggest bruise was to the ego. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
we were going to get you a keyboard from Empower for Christmas, but I think now we'll be looking at Life Alert instead.
Do that for sure. I need it, right? I need it.
Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
I'm gonna have it hardwired to you and DC's phones too. So like when it happens, like you guys are Johnny on the spot. But DC, thanks for joining us, taking time. I know you're doing a lot of great things over there at Summit, and guys, look, we'll put the link to like his LinkedIn and stuff like that, because the last time I want to do is waste his time, and more importantly, waste your time with having him talk about all the background and stuff like that. Not that it's not important, but DC's got a lot of knowledge. He's got a lot of expertise and experience, and he's a good friend. And so I want to use this time for him to kick down some knowledge. And so, like, hey guys, like, we don't really, I mean, we do plan these things, but ultimately I don't have like a list of questions to ask him. I just have real talk, and I'll let Michael jump in when he's got a question of note, which meaning you probably won't hear from him at all during this episode. But when he does get something, I'm sure he'll speak up, kind of like the like the tag event. But I'm sure he'll speak up.
Is that when Michael just took over the tag event?
Exactly, when he took over, wouldn't let anybody else talk. He was just like, this is just. I was like, it was the Michael show, the Michael Project is what we called it. But DC, like, I'm going to hit you hard with the first one. One is, look, you obviously, you're managing a lot of loan officers. You're leading a lot of loan officers. You've been a coach before. That's how we met in Next Level. So you've coached a lot of loan officers. You've been in an industry top 1% originator. So as you're looking at the landscape, let's talk about like the latter half, the back nine of 2025. And you're looking at loan officers, like what do you shake your head at? Like, what do you see out there? What do you just like be like, guys, come on, like really, like we're still doing this stuff? Like what frustrates you as someone that's trying to help? And it's not because like, hey, I'm better. And that's what I want everyone to make sure that's what I'm saying. I'm saying is like, as like DC's invested, like truly invested. I'm not just saying that. He's invested in seeing LOs win. Right. And so like, what are you shaking your head at with what you're seeing?
Man, you know what's crazy? Because I tell people all the time, like, man, I'm not better than anyone, right? Like I cruised through high school and college rocking the B's and the C's, right? Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of those because the teachers liked me and just thought I was a good kid. But I look back when I got into coaching 20 years ago, the problems that were back then 20 years ago are the same problems that they are now. Right. Yep. And it's not about the markets and the rates and the referral partners and all that, but it comes down to this. And Frazier, I know we've talked about this before, but like 10% of the LOs out there are coachable. Right. Mm-hmm. And man, when you can find that 10% and they're coachable, and man, if someone's watching this call right now, that means they're coachable because they're trying to improve themselves. Right. Yep. But like the other 90% just wander aimlessly. Right. Like they don't have a plan in place. And they just kind of go with the flow, and they're always reactionary to, whether they're files and reactionary to conditions and their loan partners and all this. But man, it's the same thing over and over. And it can be really, really frustrating. I remember talking to a coach one time, and he was like, "Hey, DC, like, I'm giving all these people all this information and everything." And he goes, "You know what? If they actually did it, I wouldn't have a coaching platform."
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. And that was this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, but I was part of another coaching group before Next Level when they came to Kansas City, because I told them it's a great place, and it's a great place to have a convention, hang out downtown, all that fun stuff. And there was 100 LOs. And I remember he's like, "Hey man, DC, I want you to get up in front of these 100 LOs, and I want you to tell them all your secrets, everything you're doing. Like, just get up there and spill your guts and give them everything." I'm like, dude, are you freaking crazy? Like, I've got 100 LOs that are coming from the Midwest and the East, West Coast, and they're going to be here. And like, I'm talking to my competition. Back then I had this mindset of competition, right? Which is a little crap anyway. But and he's like, hey, don't worry about it. Because out of those 100 people, maybe 1 or 2 will actually run with anything that you do. Okay. Yep. And that really stuck with me. And, I have conversations, especially with people, now that we have the Green Zone Project book coming out that Frazier and I've done, and, McAllister, and, we've really hooked up with Michael and Kimberly on the CRM. So, all these people, the mortgage world is a very, very small space. Right.
Yep.
So I'm having people reach out and say, "Hey, congrats on the book, congrats on this." And, I have conversations with them, and we talk about, they might share some struggles, and it's the same struggles that they had 10 years ago. Right. So I think really what it comes down to, a lot of the LOs, if they just would have an honest conversation, be coachable, and just implement a couple things, man, it can just completely change the course of where they're going.
Yep, totally.
You said 90%, like that 10% are coachable, 90% are not. Like, how often do you see people move back and forth between those two? Like, is that a seasonal thing, or do you think it's like you have it or you don't? Like, you're either coachable or you're not. Like, how often do you see somebody make that leap from being not coachable to like, oh, they figured it out and now they're coachable?
I think it's a season thing, right? And what a lot of people think is, hey, I'm going to go get coaching, because there's a lot of really good coaching platforms out there, right? But a lot of people are like, hey, you know what? I'm going to invest in myself for 6 months. I'm going to get the coaching, and then I'm going to know what I'm going to do, and then I just move forward. Well, one of the biggest pieces of coaching and hanging out with like-minded individuals is the accountability part, right? So you just can't do coaching for 6 months and then quit and then re-up in a year when you haven't done the things you're supposed to, because a lot of this is just having the accountability and hanging out with others. Because you guys know, I mean, dude, how much value do we get, Michael and Jason, of going to different events and different networking events and hanging out with people, right? I call it mortgage therapy, right? Because after about 2 or 3 months, you need to hang out with some of your buddies that are going through some of the same struggles, and just keep lifting yourself up. But you always have to keep the accountability part. It's like being, I know I bring up Mahomes a lot behind me this way, because we're big Chiefs fans here in Kansas City. But it'd be like Patrick Mahomes, like being dialed in for 6 months, and then he takes a year off from coaching, and then he tries to come back into a game, and he hasn't practiced, and he remembers a little bit of the techniques and fundamentals and stuff like that, and he just tries to get back into it. Like once you start, man, you can't stop. You have to keep going.
It's silly when you put it that way, but another way to look at it is that I think a lot of people will resonate with is that it's cyclical. It's like we see this in economic markets too, right? Like you get into you get into a state of discontent, and then that discontent gets hard enough that you decide to do something about it. You bust your ass for 6 months or a year and do the right things, do the coaching, become coachable, change the way you do things. And then you're winning, and now you get comfortable and you chill for 6 months to a year or whatever. Right. So it sounds silly to think about Patrick Mahomes taking 6 months to a year off after a 6-month sprint just for the sake of it. But how often do we see athletes, professionals, whatever, like do that? And it's not because of just like this, 6 months on, 6 months off thing. It's like this cycle of like, I'm on top of, like, I'm riding high. I'm on top of the mountain, and I don't do what it takes to stay up there. And so now I'm back in the dumps, and I got to start that whole thing over again.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest keys to really, as someone goes through their LO career and they hit different peaks of success, right? One of the biggest things as you go through is finding your routine and what works for you, right? Yep. And the thing is that I can say this with 1,000% certainty. Like, I am not the smartest person in the mortgage industry at all. Like, when it comes to the technical part of it, the tips and tricks on how to, around AUS, DULP findings, like all this that fun stuff. There's some really, really good people that are good at it. And a lot of people take pride in, like, hey, I know all, all the stipulations and conditions and all the guidelines and all that. Dude, I don't give a rip about that stuff. Okay. I don't give a shit. Right. But what I can tell you, what I'll do is I'm more organized, I'm more consistent, and I'll out hustle on getting more relationships and building new relationships, because that's where the money's at. Right. I think a lot of LOs confuse themselves with like busy work. Like, hey, I just spent 2 hours reading these guidelines, or, hey, I was on this 4-hour, class on how to do this or do that. Like, I think that's one of the big things as far as in our industry right now. LOs confuse themselves of doing busy work when they really don't step back and be like, how many hours a week am I truly marketing, right? Am I looking for excuses every single way to reach out to people, to make relationships, to make them feel good? We talked about the gratitude videos earlier, but again, like, are you doing that Monday through Friday for at least a couple hours a day and truly knowing what's important? I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in my career. And one of my, biggest strengths is I know what's important, right? Yep. I know what's important to drive revenue. And, not to go on a tangent, I was actually on a podcast yesterday, and I was talking about, people in the mortgage industry, they measure things completely wrong, right? Completely wrong, right? Because when you talk about LOs and companies, what's the first thing they talk about? They talk about units, and they talk about volume. Okay. Mm-hmm. Who cares about that? Right. How much money did you make? Right. That's your report card. What's your dollar sign that you're bringing home to your family, that you're living a really cool life, because it doesn't matter. I mean, do you really care if one of your buddies in California closed 200 million and they closed 15 loans, because that's, just the spread of how things would go? Right. No, who cares? Right. Only focus on yourself, compare yourself to only yourself, who you were 90 days ago, 6 months ago, all that. And I know Frazier and I are really, really big on condensing goals. So focus on not only controlling your time, but having like a 90-day plan of what are you going to do over the next 90 days to drive revenue. And don't have 10 ideas, right? Mm-hmm. Nail it down to 2 or 3, right? And just drive that home, and your CRM better be one of them, right? As we all know, you got to have that dialed in. If not, I mean, that thing is just absolute gold. So we're as salespeople, we struggle with the good old ADD, and we got squirrels all over the place, right?
Yep.
But you have to identify that and really like be in control of your time and say, listen, okay, here's the 2 or 3 things that are super, super important. I'm going to live in this time. I'm going to get this stuff done. And for 90 days, I'm not going to even think about getting distracted until I perfect that. And then on my next 90-day goals, then I can, extrapolate from there.
Dig it, man. Like, hey, that's a wrap. Like, we could have just ended on there. You know what I like is, and by all means, DC, go on all the tangents you want. That's what we're all about here. But
Dude, I could go on forever.
Yeah, well, you brought up a lot of good things, right? Time, and this is one of the things that drives me crazy as a coach is like it's really not. It's like, what is it? It's simple but not easy, right? And meaning the process, things that you need to do are simple, but it seems to be incredibly hard to do, and sometimes they are difficult to execute on. But really, what we're talking about here is and I've been on a tangent this week about time, right? Time management, right. And at the end of the day, is like nothing else matters other than how your relationship with time is going to work for your growth. Because if you don't have that, then it doesn't really matter of all those things, because you just won't have the bandwidth to do it because you're not planning accordingly, which is another word, is plan. Have a strategy, have a plan, right? Manage your time and then execute those things, and not like a 5-year plan, but like a 90-day, something we've talked about quite a bit is like seasons in your business, right? And so and those are generally like 90-day seasons. What are you going to do with them? And, you mentioned the CRM piece, and obviously not to, plug Empower, but on the webinar that I did earlier with Eddie Perez and Jonathan Haddad, we were talking about the trigger bill, and we were focusing on like, what do brokers need to do now, right? And not just brokers, but loan officers in general. What do loan officers need to do with this? How does it affect them? And the one thing that made it absolutely clear is that like the debate about the importance of data, the debate about the importance of managing a database or even having a CRM so you could keep track of that is dead and gone. Like, you either are going to, or you're going to have a very tough time in the future. And so as you're looking forward, DC, as you're looking about, because I could get into like the cliche, like, hey, what's your best advice for a loan officer? But really what I would say is like, hey, as a business owner, like, what are you focused on? Is because like a part of being a business owner and a leader is to put your loan officers in the best position to succeed, right? But ultimately, like, all you could do is put them in the best position. You can't like make it, for them. Sure. But like, as a leader, as you're looking in, like with the rise of AI, and you kind of already touched about like kind of like progress and stuff like that. Like, what are you doing as an owner and a leader so that your loan officers are in that best position to succeed? Like that they are putting themselves in the position to win.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing in this industry is you always have to be a couple steps ahead. Okay, the whole AI thing is coming, and it's coming fast and furious, and we are going gangbusters on being ahead of that. In fact, I'm going to Denver next week to meet with a AI guru and taking one of my assistants to go there, because we want to be ahead of the game. Like these LOs who are not adopting, now again, AI is not going to take over the relationship part of it, but what it's going to do, it's going to leverage yourself in terms of content, being visible. I mean, my gosh, you guys, 2 weeks ago, because we always ask like how people find us with referrals, and very nice couple reached out. We got them pre-qualified. They're out there looking, and we asked them like, hey, how did you find us? And they're like, oh, we just we went into ChatGPT and asked who the top mortgage broker was in Kansas City. And I'm like,
what was the demographic of that couple, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, they're like 27, 28.
Yeah, dude, crazy. Right? Crazy.
Yeah.
Love to hear it.
So they went in there, and like, thank goodness we've been laser focused on our 5-star Google reviews the past 2 years. Because if you guys haven't been doing that for the listeners on here, it's still extremely, extremely important. So
100%.
What ChatGPT is, they actually, looked through the Kansas City area. They looked at all the Google reviews, and they literally sent these people in their findings, hey, Summit Lending Kansas City, they have almost 400 5-star reviews, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, that's one of those things where they're sold on you before they even pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my feedback on this is LOs now more than ever have to decide, are you all in or not? Okay. That's the biggest thing. This whole middle of the road, I'm going to sling 2 loans a month and make good money and just kind of, mess around, dude. That's not it, man. Like there's going to be no middle ground as we move forward. You're going to be either in the high echelon and there's
Or a
no
call
middle
center
class, or you're going to be a struggle bunny, and you're going to hang on for a little bit until you can't hang on to anymore. But I think everyone just needs to have honest conversations with themselves right now. Is, are you all in, right? And if you're all in, you have to have these few things completely dialed in, because if not, you're just going to be an afterthought. Because the people in the business, like myself and Frazier and McAllister, like they're just going to keep improving, because another thing that we're really dialed in is a YouTube. Like we're doing videos. I'm pumping out 14 videos a month between short form, long form, doing the gratitude videos, doing as many podcasts as I possibly can, because it's all about exposure. And I think that's what it is. The LOs right now, it's more important than ever to have a brand out there. Right. And you have to be seen, because if you can get to these borrowers, because people are doing the research on their own, right? Yeah, they might get calls from Rocket and everything like that, but dude, they're doing the research on their own. So make sure that you're visible and they can get found.
Yeah. Do you see that? So you just said people are doing the research on their own, and I know that this kind of segues into a different topic entirely, and I don't want to go too far down this if you guys don't want to, but that brings up an interesting idea that the buyer's journey for mortgages might be changing, right? We haven't even acknowledged that idea, that like you just said you got that deal from ChatGPT. Where was the agent in this conversation? Like, and how do you see that? Do you see that shifting more and more over time? Like, how do you see agent relationships in the future of what we're describing in the next 10 years, what we're describing as the future of the mortgage industry?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. No, I'm just joking.
I don't want to talk about it. That's horrible question.
No. So, it's hard to tell. I think more and more, again, you just have to be visible everywhere. And I think the younger generation, using the ChatGPT, looking at the YouTube videos and things like that, they hadn't even talked to an agent yet. So I think there's a huge opportunity that you can
whoa. I thought business only came from agents. Are you telling me that consumers are not going to the agent first?
Right.
Sorry.
It's happening, but also
sarcastic.
Exactly. But here's the key to really separate yourself. So like the conversations are changing now. Like, like even some of the teams that my personal production team handle, like, we positioned ourselves now, the conversations are different, right? We're not talking to agents about rates and freaking just all that boring crap, right? Like they see what we're doing. So it's marketing conversations of, hey, what are you doing to get out there? Hey, awesome job on the book. Man, we see you on Instagram now. Hey, we see you speaking. Like you're positioning yourself, right? So that's what anyone who's listening on this call is, it takes a little bit of work, but you just have to look at every opportunity to either be on podcasts, go to team meetings, do whatever you can, and talk about, talk about the new market, talk about the AI, talk about you guys, we talk about high-end stuff a lot, but you can go into a real estate office right now and you can talk about the importance of, working the CRM, tips and tricks, what you do to drive business. You go in there and like the Green Zone Project. Yes, it was written for loan officers, but it's a sales book, right? That can translate to insurance agents, real estate agents, anything like that. So you literally can go in there and just talk to them about, living in the green zone for 2 hours a day and the activities they do, and they'll be blown away.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the Green Zone book. So like, obviously like my mom got a copy And so my aunt was visiting her.
That's where those 5-star reviews are
Oh,
coming
100%.
from.
It was all family, all
Secrets
family.
revealed.
Oh, no
Yes.
secret. It's only family. My mom says I'm pretty, right?
I hope
Like,
you have a big family.
That's all that matters. But my aunt was there, and she's been an entrepreneur for a long time, so she has a couple. She was like, she loves reading books, so of course she took it and she read it, and she's like, hey, this will work for my business. She's well, actually, I'm going to take it and talk to some of my my friends in my network and give them the book because it will work for it. And that's where we're talking about principles, and that's what I mean about not to plug the book, even though hey, the book is available on Amazon right now and just blowing the charts up, but ultimately, like the principles that DC and I talked about, it's not like principles like we just developed like 6 months ago. Like these are tried and true foundational elements of growth that go back to Think and Grow Rich, right? So that's like 1920s. Yep. And so so these principles are tried and true and are at the foundation of pretty much any major business that you buy from or have in the last century. Right. And so that's what I'm talking about. And when you heard DC talk about like, hey, we have these people come from AI and stuff like that, the principle isn't like obviously we weren't talking about AI in 1920, but what we're talking about is have a definite purpose of being a brand and an entity in areas where people are going to see it. Right. It's simple marketing. And so with AI, like, and again, focusing on what? Reviews, putting content out there and all of that other stuff.
That's the key there, right?
Yeah.
That's the key there is that like you weren't focusing on AI 5 years ago when you started focusing on Google reviews to get 400 reviews. You were focusing on what the best thing to focus on at the time was.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was something that was talked about 5-10 years ago, is like reviews and social proof, testimonials. And then and how often have you guys been on a call, group call, Zoom or whatever, and someone in the chat or someone says, yeah, I need to start getting serious about my review, right? And we're talking about like, this is probably like this week, right? Probably 3 times this week. And that's what we're talking about is like, when DC says, not to put words in your mouth, but when DC says all in, what I'm hearing is like, get freaking serious about your business, right? Yeah. Or don't, because one thing, again, that's what we talked about on our webinar earlier with Eddie and John, but it's all in means like, be serious about what you're doing, because there isn't going to be a middle class anymore, right? You're going to be, the rooster, right? Or you're going to be in the trough. And so you got to decide which one of those you're going to be. And that's why, I love having these conversations with DC, because DC isn't like some guy that's like, hey, I'll get in the mortgage and do it. Is like, he did it at a high level. He's still doing it at a high level. Now he's running his own company. Now he's managing loan officers. He's got ops. He's got a great team beside him. He's created a great culture, and all of that doesn't come from like phoning it in, guys. Like, it doesn't come in from like DC like middling around like, I don't know, maybe we do this, maybe we do that, and I'm just gonna go like, hopefully the phone rings. Is making it happen. And so like, DC, I want to wrap up with you is wanting you to like really drive home that point of right. It happen. And you mentioned the struggle bunny. We have a chapter of that in the book, and right. The struggle bunny island. Right. And so, it is when you're looking at, we kind of, broached like you being a leader and whatnot, but when we're talking about getting serious for your business, if you're looking 12 months ahead, right? And you're looking at consumer journeys, you're looking at what agents are doing. Obviously, they're dealing with their own thing with the lawsuit and whatnot. Like, from a positioning standpoint, where are you trying to position Summit to take advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. So in my 22 years of being in this business, I have never been so motivated and doing so many things to be ahead of the curve, you guys, because not only do you have to have discipline, but you have to have a vision of where you're going. So what I've been doing, the past, basically all of 2025 and continue through 2025 is going all in. Not only just, it's not about DC, it's about Summit Lending, our loan officers, and quite frankly, all the LOs that we know. They don't have to be associated with us because, we're in that life and you hear people about giving back, but that's like legit. You get to a certain point in your career where financially you're cool and everything like that. And it's weird. I always thought that once I got to that point, I would just kind of chill out and just like, relax a little bit. But for whatever, I can't do that. Right.
You want to make your mark. You want to make your mark on this industry.
I'm so fired up, man, because I'm investing money. And notice I don't say spend. I'm investing money so I can calculate what my return's going to be. But dude, it's all in on personal brand. It's all in on making sure we have the most badass CRM possible, YouTube channel, all of it, right? And people have to invest themselves. And I was telling someone the other day, like the past 6 weeks, I've been in 6 different cities. Okay, and it's not because I want to, right? It's because I have this desire that I have to keep learning to be ahead. So to answer the questions, it's all about being ahead of the game, learning as much as we can about AI, getting all in there, continuing to do the things that are going to work. And then that way, once I learn it and the team learns it, then we just disperse that through all of the rest of the LOs and be like, hey, this is what's working. This is what you guys need to do. Because I think for everyone that's listening to this call, you have about a 12 to 18 month window, I think, here. And if you're not all in on doing some of this right now, you need to start really, really looking at it, because once that starts in a year and a half, and you have others that are pumping out content and they're pumping out newsletters to the realtors because they've built up their Claude or they've built up their Chat GPT to literally be their voice, you're going to be ahead. You're going to be behind. You're going to be behind. So you have to go all in and completely just learn everything you can right now.
Yeah. And that's an important message for a couple of reasons, but the most important one is that we're not talking about a lack of knowing, right? A lot of the stuff, like I mentioned, the principles and whatnot, we know, what you need to do, right? As a loan officer, if you're listening to this now, look, if you don't know what to do, like, hey, there's 3 people on here that you could easily reach out to ask, but because we do this stuff, obviously got the podcast, we've had other people on the podcast interviews that have shared their playbooks and stuff like that. But the reason why I wanted DC to talk about the things on a mix of what you heard is planning, strategy, and execution, right? Tactics, yes, and some of the different things, but ultimately it's not a knowing problem, it's a doing problem. And that's what I hope you guys take away, is that DC's not talking about all the things that it would be nice to do this, it would be great to do that, all that stuff. He's talking about the things that he's doing, right? And his production in the past and present of what he's only doing, but also with what his company's doing is a reflection of that execution and implementation, because that's where everyone falls off, and the consistency to continue to do it when everyone else tends to fall off because of a new trend, shiny object, or whatnot. But guys, look, these are great conversations. It's ones that we need to have. For those of you that are listening, you got a lot of great takeaways. And in the show notes, we'll put a copy of a link to get the book, a way to connect with us, a way to connect with DC, because this is what we're all, not just DC what he's doing, but what we're doing at Empower as well. And with the launch of of High Level for Mortgage Pros, like there's just so many different things that you can take advantage of that will move your business forward. You just have to decide to do it. But hey, I always wrap up the episodes, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to put Mr. McAllister on the spot.
No.
Oh yeah. So Mr. McAllister, give us your final thoughts and take us on home. Wrap us up, buddy.
I want to wrap up with something that you said earlier, which is that the middle class is disappearing. And I want to make sure that people hone in on that and see that that's not like, this isn't an economic or political conversation, right? But this is happening not just in the mortgage industry. Like this rise of AI and of tech is creating that environment where if you're all in, you'll be rewarded for it. But if you're not, you'll be left in the dust. And so if you're not able to find that passion and be all in the mortgage industry, find something that you are able to be that all in about, because like that is like being all in, to DC and Frazier's point, like that is the name of the game. And if it's not mortgage, as much as I hate to say it, I don't want to see anybody leave the mortgage industry, but also I don't want to see anybody like not be successful. And so if there's something else that you can be all in and passionate about, like that's where you're going to be most rewarded in this economy. And so, just wanted to throw that out there. But with that, DC, dude, thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you for being a client of Empowers, a friend of mine, a friend of Frazier's. Loved your guys' book. And I'm just grateful to have you in my life and in my business. And I know Frazier feels the same.
Let's go, man. Hey, one quick thing before you wrap it up, Michael, is 2 words. Be very, very disciplined and be relentless beyond belief, right? For everyone listening to the call, have your discipline in place, be relentless, and there is no safety net, right? You go out there, just gangbusters, and you just go out there and achieve your goals and don't let anyone tell you can't do it.
Awesome.
Hell
2
yeah.
great words.
Yes. That's a wrap, guys. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening to the MLO Project. Subscribe on YouTube. We have like 13 subscribers. It's hurting my feelings. We're now posting these episodes fairly consistently.
Say thank you to my family. Say thank you to my family for those for those subs.
At least 12 of them are Frazier's family, and I'm the other one. So, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on all your favorite podcast channels. But until the next episode, thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the top.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Nice guys.